Happy Monday, fight fans. It's the DAZN Boxing Show. I go by the name of Vok.
And I'm Barack, the boxing bully.
So nice of you to join us. We have to talk. Jake Paul, KSI, a little version of Ortiz, Mick, Conlan. We got a stacked show for you today. Let's get into the opening bell. First, Barack, let's talk about the YouTube scene. But then again, you can't call Jake Paul a YouTuber. He's a professional fighter. KSI is back on the scene. Both fights canceled. But it seems that KSI has a replacement, Swarms, supposedly a friend of his. Let's first go back to Jake Paul's post that he put on about wanting to fill in for Wasabi in London for free. For free. He said he was okay with KSI taking the entire purse. He'll be the B-side. He'll fight in London. He'll get down to 180 pounds. These are things that KSI put out there. So I guess he called this bluff, Barack. KSI doesn't want any smoke. I don't want to say doesn't want any smoke. So let me rephrase that. He did not take Jake's offer.
Yeah, you might be right with calling his bluff, because recently on DAZN, I seen KSI said, he named the guys he wanted to fight. And Jake Paul was one of them. I was under the impression that he wouldn't want to fight Jake Paul because it seemed like Jake Paul is kind of more advanced. He's been training for the past few years, only boxing. He doesn't even want to be called a YouTuber anymore. I wouldn't say seems
like it. I would say he is more advanced.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. The reason why I said seems, I know he's training hard. There is not one real boxer, ex-champion all, who's seen him train who has not said he's training hard. So everybody is saying that he's training hard. Darrell, just Chad Dawson, everybody is saying that he's training hard, but he hasn't fought a boxer. He hasn't fought anybody of note. So I have to throw that word seems in there. And obviously the eye test, we can see Jake Paul is better than KSI, just off the eye test possibly. You know what I mean? But maybe he did call his bluff because look, it's last minute. Both of these guys are still YouTubers, even though Jake Paul doesn't really want to call a YouTuber. The sad part about all of this is that you might not like Jake Paul's antics. I'm not a fan of a lot of the things that he says outside of the ring, but I do know he's getting a bad rap, even though he tried to fight Fury. He tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he tried to fight a legitimate heavyweight at 200 pounds, though, and that's Hassam Rahman. So I gotta give him credit for that. It's not even his fault that neither one of those fights didn't happen. I gotta give him credit for that. At least trying.
To add to that, Barack, and we touched on this last week, so I won't get into it, but the fact that the fight was pushed up by the commissioner at 205 and him agreeing to that shows the dedication and the fact that he really wanted to fight Hassam Rahman despite of what Hassam Rahman's team is putting out there. And the fact that he still weighed in on Friday, but still did not make the weight of 205. He was 206.6. So at the end of the day, I don't know the reason why he was losing the weight, even though the fight was already canceled, I guess, to prove a point.
To make a point. Rahman wanted to make a point.
But the point wasn't made because he didn't make the weight. So had the fight been on the day of the weigh-in, he wouldn't have made 205. So that's that. That's neither here nor there. It doesn't seem like KSI wanted, he didn't take that over because he's fighting supposedly a friend of his or
Swarms. And you know what's funny? The same criticism that Jake Paul was getting, because when they heard about Rahman, everybody was like, oh, he's paid to take a dive, which is such a disrespectful thing to do. That, first of all, that's something illegal. First of all, especially when betting is involved. That's something illegal. He comes from boxing pedigree. He's a real boxer who's taken his career seriously. And to just assume that somebody's going to take a dive is such a negative thing. But now here's Jake Paul saying the same thing about Swarms. He's like, yo, you and Swarms, KSI, you and Swarms did a video not too long ago before you fought Logan Paul. That was 2019. You did a music video together. He's your friend. He's paid to take a dive. Now, Jake Paul is saying what other people were saying about him, and it kind of looks like, no, it doesn't look like he's paid to take a dive, but it does look like they're friends. But to me, that's not something that I would bring up, because when has that really ever mattered? Friends can get in there and fight. and fight hard. You know what I mean? And especially if it's for a bag, especially if it's for bragging rights. The only thing is that if Swarm's never fought before, who really wants to see him fight KSI?
Right, Barack, but you and I know being in the boxing world, but yeah, friends fight, but when there's a lot at stake, a lot of money, legacy fights for titles, these, fighters that come from that pedigree, from fighting each other in the amateurs and then in the pros, having to meet up, I guess it's different from a guy that never fought before fighting his friend. He doesn't come from that world. So I understand Jake's point on that. I don't know why KSI didn't take that offer. I think it would have been a huge fight, considering all the things that Jake Paul was offering. Fighting for no purse, that's unheard of in a professional prize fight. So where does Jake Paul go from here? We already know where KSI is going. But to your point, Barack, Jake has been making an effort to fight these fighters that are quote unquote legitimate professional boxers. No question about that. Moving on. All right, let's talk about the young welterweight rising star contender. I mean, he's a guy right there, Barack, that's lined up, that's parallel. Some people feel that Jerome Boots Ennis is past. Some people feel that he's better than him. Some people feel they're right at the same place in their careers, both wanting title shots. First, I'll touch on his phenomenal performance, vicious body attack. With the long layoff, he came back and showed that he's still, what, Barack? A knockout artist. He's knocked out every opponent that he's faced in his entire boxing career, 19-0, 19 knockouts. He's a force to be reckoned with. And if you ask me, Barack, if we want to compare him to Boots Ennis, I would have to say that Virgil Ortiz has a better resume. Not saying that he's better than Boots. Not saying that Boots isn't special and doesn't pass the eyeball test. Maybe he is the best welterweight, or eventually he'll get a chance to prove that in the world. But when you talk about resumes, lining them up side by side, Virgil Ortiz has a better resume than Jerome Boots Ennis.
Yeah, I guess I can't really argue that. Ennis has Clayton, he has Lipinets. Lipinets was not really a 147 pounder, and Lipinets had a draw with Clayton. I think that when you can't judge rankings on eye test, because eye test, Ennis looks incredible. Yes. You know what I mean? He looks incredible. He looks unbeatable. He looks like he has all the tools, and I believe one of the reasons why Virgil Ortiz doesn't look exactly the same, even though he looks incredible as well, is because he fought guys like Kavaliauskas. You know what I mean? And he got touched by Kavaliauskas, but so did the best fighter in the world on the most people pound for pound list, Terrence Crawford. He got touched by Kavaliauskas as well. But Virgil is still knocking guys out. So I can understand why all of the sanctioning bodies, except Ring Magazine and IBF, has Virgil Ortiz a little higher than Jerome Ennis because of the guys, the Solomon, the Herreras, the guys that he fought, the Kavaliauskas, the guys that he fought in the 147-pound division, but I say, hey, now it's time to match those two guys up. Some people don't like when young guys undefeated meet up early, but I think the top guys are tied up. Everybody knows, except Ugas, everybody and Thurman, everybody knows that we want to see Bud versus Spence. That's a given. And those are the only guys with belts. So those guys are tied up. So either we're going to see Ennis against Thurman or somebody fights Ugas. I don't know.
Well,
I can understand.
The route I'd rather see. That's the route I'd rather see, Barack. Just to chime in there. I mean, I like what you said. Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if these dudes matched up against each other. But if I was a promoter and a matchmaker for both these guys, that's not the route I would take. I would rather see Boots Ennis fight a Ugas or a Thurman, and Virgil Ortiz fight a Ugas or a Thurman, and let this simmer a little bit more. Let these guys be at the top of the food chain when they fight each other. Let's say something. We always want to shoot everything out and see everything right away because Bud Crawford and Spence are tied up, which, are they really tied up? Are they going to fight? We don't know, but I wouldn't want to see Virgil Ortiz versus Boots Ennis quite yet.
Okay, so
it's a phenomenal
in that case,
matchup.
I think that's perfect.
And just to say one more thing, Barack, I'm not, I only brought up Boots Ennis because he's the guy that they compare Virgil Ortiz to all the time when it comes to the boxing conversations. Mm-hmm. And me saying that he has a better resume is not saying that he's better than him. I also think Boots is phenomenal. I think both of these guys are very talented welterweights, strong, power, explosive, which is what the boxing fans love to watch. I just can wait a little bit more. I don't mind marination.
Two different styles, same results. Yeah. Undefeated and killing all their opponents. And I do think that's great. I think if they fought Ugas and Thurman, then that would show where they're at, because both of those guys are at the top of that division. That would be great. Let's just say they can get past those two. Then fight each other, and then the winner of that fights the best fighter in the world, because whoever wins against Spence and Crawford is the best fighter in the world by far. Yeah, and that's it.
No question about that. If those two dudes wind up fighting, because a lot can happen in the meantime if Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz fight other guys, other big welterweights. Who knows what will happen? Maybe that fight never happens. Hopefully it does. Let's speak it into existence. We have a lot of potential big fights.
We involving God in this. That's how hard it is with these politics, that we got to pray for these fights.
I mean, look, when all else fails, what do? We bow our heads, right?
No, we pray when things even work out.
No,
I
we
pray
should.
all the time.
Well, you're right, and so do I, but a lot of us don't, unfortunately. But that's a conversation for another show. I just hope the fight happens. And there are also junior welterweights that are talking about moving up. So I think
join us next week on the Ak and Barak prayer show. We pray for boxers.
No doubt about it. Another big win. Mick Conlan wins a big featherweight show against Miguel Mariaga. Barak, I mean, this guy's a warrior. He's been a warrior. We've watched him in the Olympics. The guy can fight. He's made his country of Ireland proud every time he steps in the ring. Big congrats to Mick Conlan.
Yeah, absolutely. Good fight. Won just about every round. Probably the 10th round he got clipped by Mariaga. But he even said in the post-fight interview that he felt a jab by Mariaga in the first round, and he was like, "This guy can crack. So I'm going to have to be on my toes. I'm going to have to show that I'm a better boxer." And that's what he showed. He showed that he's slick against a Mariaga. He showed that he's fast. He shows that, his timing is there. It's on point. He had 3 knockdowns. 2 of them, in my opinion, were questionable. As I say, that first one, the way Mariaga turned in, it was a check right hook. The way he turned into that punch, he got hit behind the head. Should have just been called, not a knockdown, just an illegal blow, but it was accidental. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't intentional. And then another one, I think, was the 8th round. That was a slip. The 9th round was a straight left, though. Did put Mariaga off balance, made his hand touch the glove. That's a knockdown. Kind of like Spence did Sean Porter. He made his hand touch the glove. He made his glove rather touch the mat. That's a knockdown. Right. So, is he ready for Lee Wood? I say he was already ready for Lee Wood. I said he wants Lee Wood, but Lee Wood got Leo Santa Cruz probably for a title, but I think he showed that he's back. He's determined. He got rid of those demons, because that's what a loss can do, and he's ready for anybody next.
No doubt. And like I mentioned, since he's such a warrior in that ring, sometimes we forget this guy's a decorated amateur. He's an Olympian, meaning he can box, and he showed that. And oftentimes fighters fall into that, to that fighting style of wanting to prove something and representing your country and being a warrior. But sometimes they resort back to what they know, and it's called boxing, the sweet science. And Mick Collins obviously has those skills, and he showed it this past week. And he can.
And I think he did a little bit of both. I think he mixed it up too. I think he was in the pocket. He was trying to bang with Mariaga a little bit, and I think that's probably why he got caught in that 10th round, because he was feeling himself. He was trying to let his hands go and sit down on his punches, and he just got caught.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But again, phenomenal performance. Congrats to him. And yes, Lee Wood is the guy. We need to see that fight happen sooner or later. All right, that's our show, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace and love. Stay safe. We're out of here.